Blizzard are finally fixing Midnight's annoying problems. 20 major changes coming in 12.1 Curse of Ulatek. Let's get into this one here. Lots of new features coming that we've already talked about. Let's see if Bellular covers everything that we haven't gotten into already here with the new 12.1 20 major feature changes. Here we go.
12.1 isn't a very flashy patch. There's no new groundbreaking feature, and story-wise, in a way, we're not even moving that far forward. But now that we've seen everything, it's actually huge looking and really quite unique. And what it ultimately means is that if what Midnight fundamentally does is no longer for you, I don't think this patch will completely change that. But instead, I see the Curse of Ulatek to be a fixer patch. Basically one for people who broadly have enjoyed Midnight, but want a little bit more. The good news—
Are they fixing the fact that we don't have playable Amani trolls? Yeah? No, they're not.
On that front is 12.1 is going to make our lives a hell of a lot better. So we've seen the WoWcast and the follow-up posts, and ultimately it's clear that some teams at Blizzard locked in pretty hard over the last 6 months, especially the UI team, but also the World Content team, the housing team, rewards team, and even their social team. There's a lot going on, so here is everything that we know. First, I'm going to run through all the new big important features, and after that, we'll talk about the big changes to the game.
Okay. Trading one
for the first
curse
time in
for
a long
another.
time, 12.1 may be a patch that isn't cursed by world lag. That may sound kind of insane if you've been playing WoW over the last decade, but no, I think it's credible. And it's because world bosses are getting a total overhaul, and the new Flex Mythic difficulty added in 12.07 is staying around.
Yeah, so the world bosses inside of like instanced content. That's how it's going to work, which is kind of weird because then is it a world boss or is it just a single boss raid now? I don't know. But yeah, you'll be able to go in and kill these guys now in like an instanced version of them.
And believe it or not, these things are actually
semi-instanced, yeah.
So now world bosses are being moved into something called layers.
A layer,
like Onyxia's layer. Now, the WoWcast episode was a little light in explanation here, but this screenshot tells us exactly what we need to know. Layers exist all over the world, just like delves do.
Yeah.
But inside the layer, you will find a boss that has got world, normal, heroic, and mythic difficulty. Ooh. And the mythic part is confirmed to be 15 to 25 player flex. Now, of course, we're all kind of waiting with bated breath to hear what kind of gear these things are going to drop, but I think one thing is for sure already. This, at least in concept, is absolutely fantastic. You see, world bosses have almost always been the #1 cause of world lag in WoW, so keeping them in instances will fix that. And it fixes another problem. For a long time, world bosses haven't really been bosses, right? The sheer amount of chaos and sometimes lag means that they barely have gameplay that you end up paying attention to. So hopefully here, with Blizzard adding difficulty and actually having an amount of players that they can design the boss for, well, hopefully that means that these will be real, actual bits of content. I mean, imagine, instead of mindlessly zerging a world boss and reset, it's something your guild maybe knocks out as a warm-up in raid night.
I mean, it's cool as long as the loot is good. I think that's what's going to matter because honestly, world bosses, I feel like become so quickly irrelevant. It's like, oh, the first week you do the world boss, then you'll never touch it again. So if these things drop really good loot, because now they're putting a mythic difficulty on these, if they drop good loot, I mean, yeah, they'll be worth doing every single week.
And for actual rewards as well, not gear that'll just be
we don't know the rewards
instantly.
Yet,
and it's actually Final Fantasy XIV's trials that come to mind for this, or maybe field encounters from Boja. And what it should ultimately mean, if it's successful, is that going forward in the future, whenever we hear that there's a new world boss, instead of not caring and turning our brains off, it'll actually register as a real meaningful bit of content. That's a huge change from how WoW's been ran, and thankfully, it's not the only major change.
Okay, just another patch.
A new zone might be a patch island, but it actually looks, well, a little bit juiced. Looks pretty cool. So, it's called the Coiled Isle, and it turns out it's much bigger and much deeper than it appears to be from the outside, for pretty neat gameplay reasons, which I'll get to in a little. But one of the biggest differences with the past is it's got its own progression system. Now, borrowed power is a dirty word.
I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of green ground with green spell effects, guys. I feel like that's what we're going to get. We're going to get a lot of green ground coverage, And then a lot of these bosses are going to have green frontal cones and green swirlies, some green on green action. Should be good for dodging.
Word as of late, but when it's used properly and in
Classic
specific
Blizzard.
zones, it can give those zones longevity. And as much as there could be skepticism, I think it's a bit like gearing, where a bit of content may be impossible, but then you do some progress, and then the content becomes possible. That type of progression sparks the feeling that RPGs are pretty much famous for. Now, all Blizzard have shown us so far is a way to reduce the venom damage, but it seems there's a whole lot more to unlock. And if they can nail the joy of picking up quality of life upgrades over time and effort, importantly, then I think this could be one of the more fun patch zones we've had in a while. And that's especially if the zone is as dangerous as the venom-soaked island of Cursed.
So what is this, like a raid renown track or something else? How did you describe this? Or it's like an entire isle?
Of late, but when it's used properly. But one of the biggest differences with the past is it's got its own progression system.
Okay.
Now, Borrowed Power is a
So the Isle has a progression system, basically. It'll affect everything. Yeah, it's the Isle.
Sort of looks to be in the lore. But where this one gets more interesting is the inside part. The inside is a giant cavern full of temples called the Vaults of Atal Utek. And there are a series of public events that lead up to a boss event in there. Based on the WoWcast, it seems that stuff can get a little bit more on the hard end. Turning to the outside of the island, though, there's something pretty cool called Curse Surges. These spawn in rare elites to kill. Now, I normally roll my eyes and say there's nothing unusual to that, but what's neat is a new thing. Beating those elites will temporarily open up Cursed Fishing and Envenomated Gathering. So I guess that's Blizzard trying to spice up gathering a bit for this patch. Definitely keen to see how that feels, and if it's in secret.
Oh, we got some Tortollan on the Isle.
Bit of a cool anti-botting measure. We'll have to see. Now, the good news is the public test realm is already up, so we'll soon see how the zone and the progression feel, and when we do, we'll report back. Certainly, though, it doesn't look like a run-of-the-mill patch zone from what we've seen so far. But of course, there's far more to get to in this video, so next, let's knock out a big new feature that's genuinely great.
Oh, the Discord, that's
This
right.
may be one of the most important fixes in the history of World of Warcraft, and it is the Discord integration. It's here, and it looks perfect. Basically, you can link up a Discord text channel to your guild chat, which basically...
Yeah, a lot of people were like angry about this when I first reported on it. They were like, oh, Discord, the one that takes your ID now in certain places and all this other shit. Look, the good thing is, I mean, if you are already not a Discord user, this is not converting WoW chat into Discord chat. No, it's just adding Discord into WoW as like an integrated thing. So you're not going to lose your guild chat because now you're going to be forced to use Discord. No, that's not the case. It's just now you don't have to open up a separate window to see your Discord, basically. It'll be in the game UI if you in fact use Discord a lot.
means that you can talk.
It's a terrible
with people who are
decision.
outside of
I mean, I don't think so. It's just allowing you to basically not have to open up a second window. It's not forcing anybody to use Discord. You still use the in-game chats for everything. This is just a feature.
the game without having to alt-tab, or of course vice versa. You're able to reach people who are in-game even if you're out and about on your phone.
Now, what my one, yeah, and before we get banned, look, that's my one question though, because like Discord chat's a bit more raunchy, I would say, than in-game chat. So is Blizzard actually tracking what you're saying in the Discord chat that's integrated in WoW? Can you be banned for saying shit in that Discord chat because now it's integrated into WoW, or is this just like a overlay feature that Blizzard's not really tracking what you're saying there?
As you see here, you can have Discord messages appear as your actual guild chat, or if you want, you can separate it out into a guild Discord window. Honestly, this is kind of nuts to me. Blizzard correctly identified that guild chats have mostly been replaced, and instead of fighting it and trying to lock us into guilds further, they've accepted it and they've come up with a great idea. And they've also followed through with some niche concerns too. It doesn't support Discord server profiles, but you can choose to have the WoW side see your character name instead of your Discord name, which of course offers identity control, which will be a super important thing for role-playing guilds, as well as guilds you're maybe not super close with. And then in terms of control and config, settings for this are on the guild leader's side. Now, we're not sure if you can see Discord messages in regular guild chat even without connecting your Discord, sort of in the way the guild chat stores messages you're not online to see, but we'll at least test it once it's up and make sure. I know plenty of people don't want to be forced into Discord use, given, say, the age verification nightmare going on. That's why it would be good to test that. And finally, for this feature, the config and admin stuff, of course, resides with your guild leader. Very much in keeping with the theme of venomous snakes and poisoned water, Blizzard have added in new tools to help you be extremely toxic in-game.
Oh,
I kind of joke, but it is actually quite cool. They're updating pings. So now you can actually ping your
yes.
abilities to communicate your
This is actually a pretty big deal. Like the whole I need healing by pinging your health bar, or I need mana by pinging your mana. It just intuitively makes sense now that we'll be able to do that. And then pinging specific spells to tell people like, oh, my whatever's on cooldown, let's chill for a second. These are great features.
cooldowns to the group, but more importantly, you can ping your health bar, which basically is a yes, I need healing button.
Yes.
Or if you're one of the elderly, maybe the medic call from TF2. Now, it definitely will be used for evil and for trolling, but all that said, I think pinging the defensives or big cooldowns already will be genuinely useful for guilds. It's not as easy as having an add-on that tracks them and does all of that automatically, but it is a lot more fun and a lot more intentional. And that intentionality probably means that if someone is sharing something, it will actually matter. Now, speaking of cooldowns, we've got huge news.
Also, we read in the article this morning that when you ping your health bar or your action bar versus pinging stuff out in the world, the sound is different too. So like people will just hear a different sound. They'll know, oh, this guy, somebody's pinging a spell or something. It just makes the whole thing less confusing too. You won't just be hearing that freaking pinging noise constantly for other shit.
For the cooldown manager, it now supports trinkets and consumables. Took a while, but thankfully that's finally in.
Nice.
And speaking of something finally being in, healers can now customize the buffs that will show on their group frames.
Fantastic.
And they can even add in visual alerts like flashes. It's definitely taking longer than any of us would have liked, but you know what? Credit to the Blizzard UI team, they're certainly marching on. Time for another feature we would have liked earlier, housing exports, or as Blizzard have cleverly called them, blueprints. This is pretty much awesome. Basically, you'll be able to import and export house codes. So it's that feature that they promised, and when you do, the import and export will be complete with a fully descriptive list of what items are in the list.
You know what Blizzard should do is a super trolly thing? They have their own in-house people. Use tons of store-bought items, Hearthsteel-based items to make really cool houses. And then you put the blueprints out there, and then anyone who tries to build the same thing as you with the blueprints gets pinged basically to purchase the items from the WoW store. Yeah, buddy. Oh, you want this really cool blueprint of this house or this thing? Too bad, you gotta go buy some shit, bitch.
What you're missing, and support for different types of exports. Those exports being rooms, whole houses.
Please stop. I'm giving them ideas. You're right. I shouldn't be doing that. I'm sorry.
And whole exteriors.
Right.
And naturally, you can also save these like you would talent layouts so you can swap between them with ease. And on top of that, if you just want a clean slate, there is now a full reset button. So that's a hell of a lot less faff than having to delete everything manually. Another much requested feature they've added is pets. You can stick a pet bed down, you can choose which pet owns that bed, and then they'll just roam around your house. And it's not just one, it will support multiple pets. So I'm sure someone out there...
That's actually really crazy. The pets walking around, like, we talk shit about the housing stuff sometimes and how there's a money grab behind it and all. But, I mean, I'll be honest, in terms of, like, MMOs having housing, Blizzard's done an amazing job. Like, this actually looks cozy as shit. I don't even do the player house, but the little doggy walking around the center fire. I mean, come on. Jesus. They've added so many features to this already, and this feature hasn't even been out. Like, it's not like a 10-year-old feature here. This thing's still brand new with Midnight. And now they've already added all this stuff. I mean, they did a good job. You got to give them credit. They did a good job with housing.
And it's not just one, it will support multiple pets. So I'm sure someone out there will find how many it takes to break a housing instance.
ESO has really.
At least from what's been announced, I am hoping there'll be more. But we do know there will be new endeavors. That was one of the major complaints. There just wasn't enough of them, so this patch will be adding 4 more. The Centaur, Amani, Tortolans, and Kobolds. Now on top of that, there's a few other things. The housing level cap is raising up to 12. Blizzard are streamlining some of the dies, but really blueprints are the big ticket item here. And rightly so. I think saving your progress is the unlock that the WoW housing system needs to be basically thousands of times more usable. Because if you go and put in the time into building something really cool, you don't want to then feel like you're locked into only using that thing because, well, poof, it's gone. That's what the old system mandated, and that's now fixed.
Nice. PvP, please.
Before I get to PvE content, there's something even more shocking. PvP, but without one of the Ps. And I think that after the Training Grounds feature, this was kind of inevitable. There's going to be an arena version of the Training Ground, which means that you can practice arena against bots. Now,
Oh
given
yeah,
how
yeah.
PvP doomers seem to be right now, the doomiest that I've ever really seen them, and for a whole lot of good reasons, I don't know if this will actually help the problems PvP people are facing, so hopefully more love for them is on Blizzard's radar, because it's almost the only group of players left feeling just not really served properly. But speaking of being served, well, there is going to be a new
That new battleground thing, the one we read about, I mean, it sounds like a good way for people to train up, learn some of their rotations, things like that, learn how to be reactive to certain PvP content too. So it seems like a good thing. It's just not, probably not the thing people who play PvP were looking for.
season of WoW, and that actually means a larger serving of content than we've been used to.
More season stuff.
I hope you're sitting down for this one, because in patch 12.1, something shocking is going to happen. There's going to be a new 8 boss raid, which is really not shocking at all.
Right.
The Venomous Abyss is the new raid, and it's Blizzard taking a bit of a break from Midnight's crazy 3 raid experiment thing, though I don't think that's because it didn't work. I think that for this, they probably just want to keep it simple and focused on the actual patch island. All that we know right now is that Ulatek is the last boss, and this footage shows
I actually liked the 3 raid release a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun, but maybe it just makes more sense for the launch of an expansion. You draw out that content more rather than where you have an 8 week, not an 8 week, but you're going to have a launch of a new season 8 weeks before the next patch comes out. You could probably do a single boss raid in the next patch like you did with this one, but the tiered raid release maybe it just makes more sense for that's like your first round of the expansion, because that first couple weeks is always longer than everything else the rest of the seasons. So yeah, single boss raids maybe down the line, but it's fine the way they did it right now. Another 8 boss raid coming.
a whole lot of snakes, lots of teeth, and
I
green
like
spell
this,
effects.
the
Pretty
tiered
nice,
release.
and it's also surprising just how much troll architecture feels right for this raid. Well, it shouldn't be surprising, it is a troll raid. I more mean, damn, they have executed it perfectly. So, that's all pretty good. But there's actually a lot more. First, we're getting a new dungeon as well, and that's not usually a guaranteed thing when it comes to getting a major patch. This one is called the Altar of Fangs, and while we're on the topic of dungeons, the M+ rotation has already driven some people a little mad. I kind of understand why. It's mostly because of Temple of Sethralis and King's Rest. BFA dungeons are not everyone's favorite. There's also Ruby Life Pools, and then the 4 Midnight dungeons that were not in Season 1. And while lots of the skepticism is fair, usually when dungeons come back, they do get changed quite a bit, so let's hope that's happening here.
I think they'll be easier. They'll change up the mobs, layout, and everything else. They've done that since they removed add-ons. They've changed a lot of how these dungeon pulls will work and everything. So hopefully it's not as bad as it used to be.
On to Delves, though, we've got an impressive offering. There's 3 of them. Now, one is the Season 2 Nemesis, who, believe it or not, is a snake man. Though not a Naga and not a Sathrak. Appears to be a new kind of snake man entirely, which I imagine will be introduced to soon. The existing Delves are also getting new variants as well, so more than we are used to for Delves. Then, with the prey system, there will be updates for Season 2.
Okay, just real quick before he moves on to the prey system, the Delves, this is cool, right? The new Delves, the new Delve Nemesis boss, that's great. But the one announcement that I was expecting that we didn't get was, where the hell are the labyrinths? Blizzard said we're getting labyrinths, these like massive raid-style delves that take you all week to get through, and you single man it, and you're venturing into this massive labyrinth, and your progress is saved every wing you complete. Where is that? 12.1.5? You think so? Is that okay? Yeah, it'll be a small, maybe. Okay, I just thought we'd get the announcement with 12.1. Yeah, I guess we're not. So we got 3 new delves. That's fine. New Nemesis boss. Okay, I'm just telling you, where's the labyrinths at, man? Wait, that was an expansion feature. It still has not happened yet. 12.1.125. Okay, good.
Will be introduced to soon. The existing Delves are also getting new variants as well, so more than we are used to for Delves. Then, with the prey system, there will be updates for Season 2. That's going to mean some new hunt targets, new affixes, and, most importantly of all, new Astalor voice lines. Perhaps the largest feature many will feel is on gearing. Now, one of the biggest frustrations my guild has had for quite a while now is that raid gear kinda sucks. It's faster and easier to gear through Mythic Plus, so a lot of the time we end up out-gearing the raid. Not in 12.1 apparently, because they've buffed the hell out of gear.
Finally, I've said it so many times. I'm like, why are the Mythic Plusers all geared as shit like 2 weeks into the season, and the raiders who are progressing on bosses and heroic and then mythic, they look like they're behind instantly. And I always said, I'm like, what the hell? I mean, at least make them even. I think ratings should be a little bit better. because I think rating's still the true end game of WoW. But it always felt like, no, actually, if you want to gear out and be super elite, you better be doing Mythic Plus first, and then you do rating later. Well, that's changing with the vault change. He's about to talk about it, but it's a big freaking deal what they're doing with raid loot.
Where the drops themselves are the same,
Pre-wash, yeah.
but the raid track in the
Yeah.
vault is now a full tier higher.
This is huge, man. This
It means
is huge.
that myth gear will be something you can earn from heroic raid vault.
Yes.
And you might be wondering what that means for myth raid vault. Well, the good news is that it will just drop fully maxed out gear instead, so that'll actually save you myth crests. Now, rather shockingly to me, bonus rolls, which were of course added back into the game in patch 1205, well, those are actually sticking around.
Sticking around.
You'll be able to pick up a Void Core as a vault reward right away. And then, on week 8 of the patch, you'll start getting them directly as well. So it basically means Blizzard are locking in bonus rolls as a part of WoW's gearing, and I think those bonus rolls, because they do guarantee a bit of loot, are actually a fantastic backup option from the Great Vault.
Yeah.
Pretty neat.
And they changed the amount needed for raid. Because previously, again, punishing raiders, you needed two of those bonus rolls to roll one time in raid. Only one to roll in Mythic Plus. Now they're flipping it around. It's all one. All you need is one charge to do a bonus roll, whether it's raid or Mythic Plus. Great.
This is the change that on week 8, instead of having to do a quest for them, you'll actually just start getting them directly. So there's no need to unlock, there's no quest to do or anything like that.
Nice, good.
Otherwise, they work the same as always, but with one key improvement though. Raid rolls don't cost 2 anymore. That was kind of weird, I guess.
There you go.
Then there's the Ascendant upgrade items. Those are making a return as well. The new Ascendant Venom cores will drop from a bunch of sources and upgrade your weapons, trinkets, and now necklaces at a rate of 10 cores per upgrade. And lastly, on the gearing front, the Catalyst will no longer change the secondary stats or remove special...
It's not pre-watched. I just know this shit. Because your boy, he keeps up with the news, okay?
effects from the item that you catalyze. That means that the gear you choose to catalyze is actually important now.
This changes a lot of things. I don't think people, really caught this the other day, and I tried to make it emphasize on it. That means you could have tier gear with cantrip abilities on it. So it changes biz, because your best in slot, if I'm reading this correctly, that would mean your best in slot is not actually getting the tier gear itself for certain slots that have cantrip items available, because then what you would want is actually the cantrip item converted to the piece of tier, rather than the actual just piece of tier from the boss itself. Now, I don't know if I'm understanding this correctly, but that's how I understood it, is it keeps the ability effect. The special effect stays on it, even if you convert it to a piece of tier, which is pretty crazy.
I don't think it'll matter that much in the earlier weeks, but certainly as you go on, recatalyzing a bit of tier once you can maybe put...
What is a cantrip item? It's an item with a special ability on it. So like a ring or a belt or something that says oh, when you do this, there's a chance that a lightning shock could proc and shoot out lightning from your crotch, something like that. Any item with a special procking ability, extra ability on it, is considered a cantrip item.
In some sort of nice bonus effect, well, that could actually work. So, pretty neat.
Yeah, it doesn't use a spell slot.
The last important thing, at least for now, is class changes. We'll dig into every class later, as we always do, but for now, here are some of the huge sweeping ones, like the usual health and incoming damage buff that we get every season, which...
Previously, if you converted a cantrip item, an item with an extra ability, to a piece of tier, that ability would go away. It wouldn't stay anymore. It would just get converted to tier, and that ability goes. Now they're saying this could stick around and be part of your piece of tier gear too, which is crazy. That changes how biz works and everything.
Is essentially Blizzard's attempt to stop spike damage issues, which can be a real bastard for healers, and they can make the game design side of WoW not really work as well. But history certainly shows us that sort of thing helps, but is not a overall fix to the problem. Now, there are some unusual changes though as well, like DPS cooldowns getting nerfed. Turns out Blizzard totally agrees that all of your damage being inside cooldown windows makes the damage you do outside of those windows feel massively frustrating, and of course it does mean that if you do a little bit of a whoopsie in your damage window, well, you should feel a little bit less punished.
Yeah.
Now, this is being done on a spec-by-spec basis instead of being something...
We went through all the class changes the other day. It freaking felt like it took us 40 minutes to go through all of them, because there's so many, but that was the basis of all the class changes. Was Blizzard wants to lessen the importance of the burst window for everybody. So you're doing more stable damage throughout the entirety of a boss fight or a pull or whatever. And the bursty windows, while they'll still exist, they're just less important.
Sweeping, so I don't have any big number for you, but I can at least tell you that it will impact Unholy, Devourer, Windwalker, Elemental, and Ret. For now, at least. Blizzard may add more to the list. One last thing before I go and dive into the PTR, and that is on the raid story. The raid story is definitely not directly related to the main thrust of our drama in the World Soul Saga, but it is kind of related, and Blizzard's blog post did promise us more Arator, where specifically he'll be chasing down Xal'atath. Because, yeah, I suppose it only took him a few months to remember that his parents were slurped into a big voidy ley line thing and disappeared. But overall, what we're looking at here is game system updates that seem very strong, plenty more content than I would have expected. And while we can't say that the world content is really that much better yet, I think moving world bosses into their own instance is maybe the most exciting thing within this patch. Because for such a long time, world bosses have absolutely blown. And with the feature,
I think the most exciting thing is the changes to raid loot and how the vault will work. To me, that's because that's what I do a lot of, so I think that's
like
cool.
this, I suppose we can have bosses like, say, Gruul or Onyxia as a normal thing in the game moving forward. That would be fantastic. And just think about how Blizzard puts effort into making world bosses for every major patch, and most of the time, players really don't give a shit about them. Here, they'll register as actual content, because you can do them on difficulties that'll actually mean the mechanics matter. Seems pretty cool to me, especially in how it's layered across all of the other world content improvements and just improvements we've got with Midnight. So while Midnight has been a bit of a bumpy, weird expansion in some ways, I think the core of what they're doing here looks pretty great. I'd love to know what your favorite announced feature is. Mine is certainly layers and blueprints. And if any of this has you excited to play again, check out this video next. It's about the leveling changes that literally just hit the game a few days ago. I gotta say, they're really awesome. They're really fun for your alts. And you can find out about it with the video link that's about to appear.
Nice. Yeah. Great stuff. Like I said, I think for me, the rating changes are the biggest deal. I think those are great. I mean, getting myth track gear from doing heroic raids is going to be awesome. And a lot of the other, I think the delve bosses or the world bosses inside of an instance, that could be cool if they're like one boss raids now. So we'll see how that all works. But overall, I think excited for 12.1. It looks cool. We'll see how it all goes. Playable Mighty Trolls, maybe? No, probably not. Nice video from Pellular.